This is how I would balance the Overwatch 2 beta. In Overwatch 2, Blizzard made a big push to remove, change, or weaken abilities that were considered frustrating to play against. Cass's flashbang became a damage ability instead of a stun. Mei doesn't freeze with her main weapon, and Brig no longer stuns people. A lot of these things changed because of the feeling that you had no control of the situation when these things happened. And that feels bad. In my opinion, Doomfist ult is still like this. If you're a 200 HP hero without a movement ability, like Ana, as soon as you hear the Doomfist ult happen, you pretty much know that you're dead. The best chance you have is hiding in a corner and hoping you can debate him into landing into some just bad spot. This feels terrible since there's no counterplay and he can do it from such far away distances. This is different to a one-shot ultimate like Diva Bomb because you can track her ult percentage in your mind and make sure you're in a position to hide when you think she has it. Putting it down to 150 damage means that it's no longer a one-shot, but it's still strong. Obviously, with that nerf, we need to buff him a little bit to make him a bit stronger, and since he's currently very fragile, it makes sense to give him a bit more tankiness via more shields when his abilities hit. This helps him be a bit tankier and removes the annoying one-shot mechanic. Winston right now is absolutely mental, and if left unchecked, he's probably going to be the only tank played in the Overwatch League, except maybe Ryan on extremely brawly maps. With way less shields in the game, you can really feel the power of his buff shield and the fact that there is less DPS due to one less player. On top of that, in the beta, they also reduced the cooldown by 1 second. Since it takes longer to kill bubbles because you have one less DPS, and also it's on a 1 second lower cooldown, it just feels like there's bubbles up all the time. Winston is one of the few heroes that makes you feel like you're back in Overwatch 1 because of the massive amount of shield uptime. In my opinion, the change is very simple. Just remove the buffs that they gave him coming into the beta. Bring the shield back down to 600 HP and increase the cooldown by 1 second. When Cass went up to 225 HP, the game was extremely brawly, and they were looking for ways to fit him into the game alongside Soldier and Ashe, and to make him feel unique in comparison. So they decided to make him more of a close-range character with a bit more HP and allow Ashe and Soldier to take the long range. Since the game is moving more towards skirmishes instead of deathball brawl compositions, it doesn't make sense to leave him with his 225 HP in Overwatch 2. Sombra is an absolute monster right now and almost makes no sense with how much damage she can output. Alongside the fact that she can scout while invis, has an escape every time she engages, and has an easy to hit ultimate that is devastating, she just doesn't make sense when compared to flankers like Tracer, doing more damage and having more utility alongside that damage. Sombra desperately needs a damage reduction, as she's one of the main reasons that support in Overwatch 2 feels so stressful to play right now. Soldier is the perfect example of power creep in Overwatch 1. Over the years in Overwatch 1, damage slowly got buffed as more and more shields entered the game. All of these damage buffs were to help with shields, and with less or no shields on the field most of the time in Overwatch 2, you can really feel how much more powerful Soldier has gotten over the years. Back in Overwatch 1, Soldier was released with 17 damage per shot. Then he got buffed to 18, then he got buffed to 19, and now he's been buffed to 20. You really feel this with how fast he can kill people without shields up. And I think Soldier is an important lesson on what kind of TTK feels good in Overwatch. In my opinion, his TTK is just a little bit too high, giving you basically no reaction time to his damage. If it was just a little bit lower, it would feel better. It would actually be really interesting to see how the game would feel if damage was brought down to the early Overwatch 1 days across the board for DPS heroes. But that is more of a significant and wild change. Tracer feels weak right now. Due to her damage getting nerfed, there are two ways that you can look at this, in my opinion. Either you bring down DPS of heroes that do too much damage and leave Tracer where she is in the beta, or you bring her damage value back to live damage values. The reason why I chose to bring her damage back up is because she just cannot compete with damage heroes like Sombra. It would be interesting to see how Tracer would be with just the Sombra and Soldier nerfs before giving her more damage back, but for now it makes sense to give her the damage back. I think Tracer is a really good hero to balance other damage heroes around because I think her TTK feels pretty good for the most part. Brig is really struggling to find her place in Overwatch 2. Near the end of Overwatch 1, she became a babysitter for the off support, with Zen Brig being one of the most popular support compositions at the high level near the end of Overwatch 1. But now, without stun, it doesn't feel like she does this too well. Don't get me wrong, she can definitely deter flankers a bit, but then since she's a melee hero and the DPS heroes are 10% faster than her, she's very all-in if she ever tries to bash in and do damage. Since they don't want her to have a stun, it definitely feels like she needs to be a bit beefier to be able to get value via damage. Otherwise, she just stays back hitting whip shots, which just doesn't feel like enough in Overwatch 2. People aren't stacked up, so Inspire doesn't have as much value, and her damage can't keep up with heroes like Moira. Her ultimate is also weakened now since it's an overheal instead of armor, so that's another thing that makes her weaker. So if you were going to release a balance patch in the Overwatch 2 beta, what would it include? And also, if you want to see my support tier list in the Overwatch 2 beta, you can click up